y'all, my name's Anna Wallace. Today's art kit was inspired by the current exhibition at the Weatherspoon Art Museum, Ties That Bind. The title for the exhibition is so evocative of textiles, and looking through the images and works from the show, I was very inspired by the familial connections and looking at the actual textiles that the subjects are wearing in the works of art. So this inspired me to share with you guys one simple method of mending and repairing old clothing. So really the inspiration is that you may have laying around your house some old garment that maybe has been handed down to you by your mother or an older sibling that really needs some extra love, but that you really treasure. So I'm going to be showing some mending on this shirt that belonged to my mother. It's just a work shirt. It's really simple. It's nothing that's worth a lot of money, but it's very comfortable and I love it, and we have both worn it for many years and loved it. But as you can see, it's got a lot of tears, and so it needs a little bit of love. But with just a little bit of time, you can definitely bring it back and get some extra time out of these garments. And the method I'm going to be sharing is a visible mending method, which means you will see the repairs you make, which I think makes them even more beautiful. So for this project, you'll need a garment or something that you would like to repair. You'll need either some kind of sashiko thread, which looks like this, or simple embroidery thread. Either will work. You'll need some kind of scissors. You'll need a needle. I like a nice big needle for these projects. And then you'll need something to hold your garment taut. So that might be an embroidery hoop. You could also use a darning mushroom or egg, whichever you have. So for those, you'll be placing your hole around the mushroom or egg. If you don't have one of those, you can even use a piece of fruit and a rubber band. So placing your part to be repaired just around the fruit and then placing a rubber band around it so that you can have a nice surface to work from. So in this case, I am going to use my embroidery hoop, and there are lots of holes on this garment I could repair, and I'm going to focus on this one right here today. So I'll place the interior underneath the fabric, and it might be a little tricky because this is part of the arm, and then the outside will go around. Once you have it placed, you'll want to make sure it's nice and tight. So give little tugs around the sides. And then once you're happy, you can then tighten here. There we go. Okay, so once we have our hoop around our location we're going to mend, if there are any little stray bits like this, you might just want to clean those up by snipping them off so that we have a nice clean space to work. You'll want to go ahead and thread your needle, just leaving a little tail like this on one end and a very simple knot on the other end, like so. The first thing we're going to do is create just a really simple perimeter of stitches around our hole that we're going to patch. And you can do this any way you want, with a running stitch or a straight stitch. It's just going to be a simple series of those stitches to, it's going to kind of make a strength barrier once we start to go in between. It's going to make it hold up really nice. I have a situation where I have this edging right here. Because I know that it's going to be stronger if I go on the outside, that's what I'm going to do rather than kind of try to go on the inside there. So my line is going to kind of go like that. You don't want it too close to the edge, otherwise it'll just continue to rip into it. So I'm going to start on the back. And I'll just make one stitch like this, a regular stitch. And with my second stitch, I'm just going to come up a stitch ahead of where I came down. And then when I go back down, I'm going to go backwards into where the first stitch ended. And again, when I come up this time, I'm going to do so a stitch ahead. And then again, move backwards. This is going to create a totally solid line of stitches that's going to be really nice and strong for us to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and continue doing that all the way around. Done. So as you can see, I have a nice perimeter of stitches all the way around the hole that I'm trying to mend. The next step is going to be to create the first set of parallel stitches along the opening of our hole. So because my hole kind of pulls this direction, I'm going to make my parallel stitches go this way. So I'm just using the same piece of thread that I used for the perimeter because I still have some left. And I'm just going to again start kind of on the outside. So you don't want to, you just made this nice perimeter, so you want your stitches to go outside of that perimeter because again, that's going to be sort of the border that maintains the strength of our patch. So when you come up from the back, I'm just going to go straight over to the other side here. And then I'm going to come back up just a little bit next to it. You don't want your stitches touching, but you don't want them super far apart either. Basically, the tighter your stitches are to one another, the tighter your weaving will look and the tighter your patch will be. So as you can see, I'm just going back and forth across and coming up next to the previous stitch each time, creating a series of nice parallel lines. I'm a believer that they don't have to be super perfect. This is already an imperfect garment, so just kind of do your best there. And I will just go ahead and continue. And if you run out of thread, as I'm about to here, just tie it off on the back and then you can start with a new piece. Okay, so now I have a full series of parallel lines that run all the way across my opening. So the second step is going to be to create a series of perpendicular lines that run the other direction, but that also are going to weave above and under all of these that we created. Okay, so here we are at the last step. So we've got all of our parallel lines. And then again, using the same thread, if you still have some left, we are going to start making a series of perpendicular stitches. And so when I come up on this side here, and you can start wherever it is that you ended. So if you ended on this side, you could start on that side. That's totally fine. So again, I'm going to come up on the outside of our perimeter that we've made. But then instead of just going straight across, I'm actually going to needle weave over and under each of these stitches that I already made. So it's like we are creating the warp and then the weft of this patch. And you'll just want to go kind of straight across and then pull your thread through. And you can kind of use the tip of your needle to push that stitch all the way over. And then you'll want to actually go down through the thread or through the textile and then back up again. That'll make it stronger. And this time when we come back up, we simply want to alternate. So this last one was going to be an over, so I'm going to go under, and I'm just going to do the opposite of what the last stitches were. So again, over, under, just alternating whatever the last row had done. And sometimes it gets a little bit off, and I just try not to worry about it too much because you'll just recorrect it on the next row over. And you'll pull that all the way through, and again use the needle to kind of push it over, go down through the fabric. Come back up again, and then just keep going until you have completed filling in the entire thing. So it's kind of a slow process, but it creates a really beautiful result. Okay, so many rows later, I'm here at this point, and I've just got a few more rows to go. So as you can see, you really want to go until the very end here, even if you only have a couple more stitches to weave through. Really go until you can't go any further, making sure that it's really tight all the way through there. And I think that about does it for mine. So the very last thing you'll do is just flip it over. You've still got a decent amount of thread left. I just make a nice knot, pulling it tight to the surface there. And then you can kind of take the needle and just weave it through any other part of the fabric and then snip it off there so it holds it really tight. And then at this point, if there are any other major loose threads on the back, you can just snip those off. And then you're ready to take it out of the hoop or your darning mushroom or whatever you're using and check out your handiwork. So there you go. It's a beautiful woven appearing patch. It's obviously very visible, and I think it adds a little bit of history to a garment that you already love and treasure.